is happening, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ty, behind the camera from Ty Drives, for yet another full review and test drive. This is the 2022 Subaru Ascent in the touring trim level, and let's take a look around this vehicle and then later take it for a test drive. So throughout this video, we're going to take a look at the exterior first. We'll then hop under the hood, see what powers this car, and then we'll check out the cargo area, the third row of seating, the second row of seating, and finally the front row of seating. We'll check out all of the features in between. And you want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, because we're going to take a look at how this vehicle drives. I'm going to strap the GoPro to my head and kind of get a first-person point of view drive. But enough of that. Let's get right into the features. Full LED headlamps for both the high and low beams. We also have LED daytime running lights up here, and the turn signals are up there as well. Looks pretty cool, all illuminated. Really nice paint color for this vehicle. This kind of forest green looks very nice. Some chrome accents down below with your LED fog lamp, also looks pretty nice, all illuminated. And I like the use of sort of this flat black plastic on the exterior of the vehicle. Really protects the paint from any road chipping or anything like that. Nice big grille and pretty large Subaru emblem with the front view camera right underneath. And just a pretty attractive front end of this car. Very nice shapes to the hood too. It kind of belts down like this, and then we also have some curves towards the center. 20-inch wheels for the touring, which look very nice in this vehicle. We have a kind of combination between the machine finish and sort of like gray pockets on the inside, and the tires measure 245/50. Now this vehicle is slightly used, even though it's a 2022, so it's got about 5,000 miles on it, and it's in great shape, so we'll take a look at it anyways, even though it's not a brand new vehicle. We have chrome surrounding the windows and sort of this matte chrome look for the mirrors here. If we flip around, we have LED turn signals in there. We also have blind spot warning and the really neat sort of Subaru spotlights in the little mirror there for when you turn the car off. We of course have smart key entry on both the front door handles. You just tap this little pattern here to lock, and hand behind the handle to unlock. Chrome and that flat black on the back here, and of course the chrome door handles as well. This car also has some pretty neat crossbars added to this car as well. Back here, same wheels and tires. Just a really nice looking car in this green color. Definitely kind of makes you want to go on an adventure with your whole family, this vehicle. Pretty large spoiler back here with the shark fin antenna. Also the panoramic sunroof up here. We'll take a look at that once we get inside. And partial LED tail lamps back here. So we have the turn signals, the brake lights, and the tail lights back here. More chrome with all of the badging, the nice exhaust tips back here. We have parking sensors that span the rear bumper. We also have the parking camera on the rear and a trunk release right underneath the Subaru logo. And a nice load protector too here, which definitely saves the bumpers. I can't express that enough. Lots of badging back here, so you definitely know, well, I should say everybody should know what kind of vehicle you are driving. So this car was a huge hit when it first came out, and I couldn't even get my hands on one to film it. But now that it's 2022, almost done with 2022 model year for these vehicles, I've finally got my hands on one of these things. What do we think on the design of the exterior of this vehicle? Let me know in the comments. So, underneath the hood of all Ascents, from the base model all the way up to the touring, we have this 2.4 liter flat 4, which has a turbocharger. And it's pretty neat to see the flat 4 underneath the hood of the Subarus, because it just looks so much different under the hood than any other car because of that flat design to the engine. So we have the intake up top, as well as this pretty neat air duct that sucks air into the intercooler, again on top of the motor. So just a pretty neat design to see the flat style of engine you know, underneath the hood. And really Subaru and maybe Porsche is really the only vehicles, you know, mass-produced vehicles that have the flat-style engine. We're going to get to see what it's like when we're out on the road. By the way, power figures, 260 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque, so quite the little powerhouse for this engine. Alright, so let's take a look at what's under the trunk. So, of course, the Subaru Ascent does have 3 rows of seating, and I left one segment of the third row up so you kind of get a good idea on how much room we'll have back here with the third row seats up and with the third row seats folded. So, actually a pretty decent amount of room behind the third row seats. So that's pretty nice. It's definitely, you know, just about, you know, as much room as a Tahoe, I would say, lengthwise at least, behind the third row seats. So that's pretty good packaging with this car. But once you fold down the third row seats with this little tether right here, they'll fold flat like this one is, and we have nice coverings on the back of the seat, so we can kind of load in whatever you'd like without worrying about damaging the leather. And it's a really good amount of space back here. As we can see, plenty of storage for bottles and whatnot. We have speakers back here, even these little seatbelt holders, USB chargers back here, and little storage spots. We also have lighting back here, which you could turn on, a 12-volt power outlet, as well as cargo hooks all down here. Once we lift up this nice rubber mat, you can see we have a cargo shade and your tow hitch, all that good stuff for the towing package. And to close the trunk, you can either close it right on down manually if you're feeling strong, or you can either close the trunk or lock the vehicle and close the trunk. So pretty neat. And it closes right on down nice and easy. Next, we could take a look at first the third row seating, and secondly the second row seating. So to gain access to the third row, once you're at this position, you can kind of just pull this lever here. It'll fold the seat like so, and you just kind of grab it and push forward. So it's kind of in that position there. Once we get back here, we even have the rubber floor mats back here. Pretty nice design for the third row seats. You still have the brown leather back here, and we do have room for 3 across, which is pretty awesome. Now, the Ascent will come in either a 7-passenger or 8-passenger. Now, this particular one is obviously the 7-passenger, since we have the captain's chairs in the second row, or the bucket seats back here, which is pretty nice. Definitely the one I'd go for, especially if you have just a couple of kids and they could just kind of slide in between the seats there, and there's no reason for folding the seats down or anything like that. It's just easier with the captain's chairs. I'll take a look at the door panel back here. Really large door panel, so you can definitely get some bigger people back here, or your kids in and out without, you know, damaging anything. We have sunshades up here that hook in up top, some of that faux wood trim, and the sort of 3 different leather colors. You have the brown, the black, and the tan color, which is pretty neat. Very, very nice color combination on the interior and the exterior of this vehicle. I really, really love the green with the brown. 14 speakers for the Harman Kardon audio system, and also some more bottle holders. Lots and lots of bottle holders in this car. We have the rear seat backs with map pockets, and we could also hop in and see how much legroom there is in the second row. Also, one more bottle holder I forgot to point out right at the top of the door there. We also have climate controls back here, so we have the temperature of fan speed, where you want it to blow, and also heated seats for the outer rear seats. Nice plug back here to plug in and charge your devices. Also some USB plugins as well. We can fold this down into more cup holders. Very comfortable seats here too. I have to say, the recent Subaru seats are just very, very comfortable. We have lighting up here, air vents, and also lighting and air vents over here, as well as the grab handle, and a pretty large panoramic sunroof. We'll open it up once we get up front, and it continues very nicely. You see it almost to the rear of the rear door. But at this point, I think you get a pretty good idea of the third and second row seats. Let's get to the important part, the first row of seatings and the driver's cockpit. On the door panel, we have more of the very nice color combinations. So the black leather, the tan leather, and the brown leather, which is very nice. Two-person memory for the driver's seat. And we have all of the window controls, the window lockout for the children in the rear, the lock and unlock for the doors, power folding mirrors, and the rest of your mirror adjustments on that little joystick there. Again, more bottle holders at the bottom. We have a couple of them down there, and a Harman Kardon speaker on the door. To the left of the dash, we have an air vent and a little storage here to put maybe pens, pencils, or credit cards maybe. We have a small array of buttons here to open the trunk, turn on all the interior lighting. We can also set the memory for the height of the power trunk lid with that button there. We have a gauge dimmer, traction control on and off, and also to turn your blind spot warning on and off. We have a manually tilt and telescoping steering wheel, that little lever right there. The hood release is tucked up right up here, and we have the pedals down here and the rubber mats installed. Take a look at these seats, just a very nice shade of brown, very good quality to the leather, and they are a full powered seat with the two-way lumbar, and you can also extend the thigh extensions with the little lever at the bottom there. So let's hop in and check out the driver's cockpit. Alrighty, so here is the key for the Ascent and for many other upper end Subarus. Pretty nice premium looking key. We have the lock. Unlock is the Subaru logo and the trunk release, as well as the panic alarm. And you also have a physical key on the inside. If you just slide this little lever over, a physical key will slide out of the bottom in case you need that. Of course, it has push button start, and the button's right over here on the dash. So, we kind of check out what's right in front of us first, and that is this nice leather wrapped steering wheel. Very comfortable steering wheel to hold in your hands. It's also a pretty small wheel too, so very easy to maneuver and everything like that. So we have contrast stitching on the inside, all of your sort of infotainment and media buttons over here, such as your Bluetooth telephone, skipping between your tracks, the audio volume source, your voice commands. Also some buttons over here for the central display, which we'll get into in just a minute. We have our adaptive cruise control settings over here, as well as your heated steering wheel right over here, which is very nice. You also have paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. Now, as I said, this is a CVT transmission, but within the CVT transmission, it gives you sort of 8 different gear ratios that you can choose from. You know, if you're going down a hill or something like that, or you kind of want to, you know, think this is a race car or something like that. They definitely give you those options with the paddle shifters. Right over here, we have our headlight controllers, as well as the fog lights and turn signals. We also have our wipers for the front and rear on this stalk to the right. And here's our gauges. So pretty simple, yet pretty nice design for the gauges. I like the blue needles for all of the physical gauges. But in the center, we have a pretty large display, which you can control a few different screens within these 2 arrows at the bottom of the steering wheel. So let's see what we can see here. It looks like we have an instantaneous and miles per gallon rating there, as well as a distance till empty. So we can go down and see more trip settings, digital speedometer, your tire pressures, and various things like your average fuel economy and things like that. You see 24 miles to the gallon. This car has about 5,000 miles on it. That's pretty impressive for a car of this size. So not too much to show in there, but a pretty neat screen to see nonetheless. Taking a look up here, we have a nice soft to the touch dash. We have some speakers up here with the Harman Kardon sound. We also have this upper central display, which gives us some pretty neat extra information up here as well. So we're trying to angle the camera so that you can see the screen here. And we're going to use the buttons on top of the main infotainment screen to configure different displays up here. So basically right now it's kind of showing us all of the safety systems that are activated or deactivated. So we have the rear view camera mirror, the automatic high beams, automatic lights, the front parking camera, automatic wipers, the blind spot. It'll show you what all of that stuff is activated and deactivated. So if we go down, we also have sort of an inclinometer and the four-wheel drive system, what's going on with that there. Then we also have some trip settings over here, some instantaneous fuel economy and percentage of throttle. We have a little compass right there, what our audio is doing. Then we have some more trip settings in here as well. And then we have a date and time. And we can also press the view button in the center to pull up the front 180-degree view camera system. So this doesn't have a 360 view like the 4 cameras all the way around the vehicle, but you definitely have that front camera, which helps in parking, which is pretty neat there as well. So we have a couple of air vents to the either side of the Starlink screen. We have the buttons as we've seen before, as well as the hazards. This is kind of our home screen for the main infotainment here. So we have the phone, the map, which this comes with the built-in audio as part of the Touring trim. You can press menu to enter destinations, as well as kind of just, you know, kind of pinch to zoom and everything like that, which is pretty neat. We have gas stations, traffic information, and all of that good stuff in there too. We have media over here for when you connect your phone through the Bluetooth. We have different apps you can enable, such as the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and some other things that Subaru gives you as well. We can also go through the settings, which are pretty extensive, so you can definitely pause the video while I'm scrolling to see the different things that you can customize. We have our sound settings. Very nice sound coming from the Harman Kardon audio system. Again, 14 speakers, which is pretty cool. We have different navigation settings, vehicle settings as well, and that pretty much rounds out the infotainment screen up here. We have a couple of other things, such as your radio, which you can see the presets will come down below your sources to each side, and various other things for your tuning and things like that. It's a pretty simple screen. You know, definitely you can add shortcuts and move your apps around and things like that, which is pretty neat. Still has a CD player, which is awesome to see. I still like to rock out to my CDs, but the car that I have now doesn't have a CD player anymore. Kind of bummed out about that, but nice to see that this car still has one. We have some shortcuts down here for the screen up there, the volume knob, tune, shortcuts for the radio map and different apps, and skipping, and then the media, a quick home screen there in the middle. Very simple climate control. We have dual zone up here and then another zone for the rear passengers, which is also very nice. As you can see, 2 temperatures to either side and the fan speed in the center. Very simple climate control, and then it'll kind of show you where the air is coming out up here. And you kind of press that and just sort of cycle through, which is pretty neat there. We also have heated and cooled seats for the Touring, which is pretty awesome. As you can see, it lights up different colors for the heating and cooling. We have recirculating, and then also your front and rear defrost, as well as your mirror defrost, and the passenger seat controls there too. Down here we have a wireless charging pad, which is pretty nice. And we have the little X mode button, also a vehicle hold button, which will kind of activate the brakes when you're at a stoplight, so you don't have to keep your foot on the brakes, and then it'll kind of deactivate once you put your foot on the accelerator. Pretty nice to see that this car has that. We have some power outlets here and some audio inlets there to an aux, and then it looks like we have 2 USB ports in there. That brings me down to our transmission lever. So of course, again, it is a CVT transmission, only transmission you can get on the Subaru Ascent, but we could drop it down into reverse. You can see very clear backup camera. It is a little bit offset, but it'll also tell you what kind of things you have activated, such as your parking sensors or the rear auto braking. We also have neutral and drive. And once you switch it into drive from being into reverse, the front camera pops up there, which is pretty nice. You also switch it over to the manual mode to cycle through the gear ratios. And you also do have a electronic parking brake, which is nice. Really neat color combination in this car. I really was kind of shocked when I got into this car. It was such a nice interior. Definitely the materials in here are pretty nice. Especially the sort of faux wood trim. You have some cup holders over here. Very nice soft armrest. You can lift it up. Have some spot here for some change and some valuables because it's all felt lined inside there. Brings me to the glove box, which is lockable. Plenty of room in here, and it's also felt lined. Have this little shelf up here for maybe pencils and pens. Nice accenting with the soft leather up here. And I've kind of noticed on all touring trim levels, it seems to be that this is always tan, just to kind of lighten up the interior. Even if you get a black upholstered interior, this trim will kind of remain that tan color, which is nice because it lightens up the interior. Passenger portion of the dash is pretty nice. You have some stitching over here. We have the rear view mirror up here, which also turns into a camera. Take a look at that. That's pretty neat. So during our test drive, we'll take a look at the camera. We'll kind of leave that on, see what it's like to drive. And you also have some adjustments for the camera and your garage door home links up there. We have a sunglass holder up here, as well as a little mirror to keep an eye on the kiddos back there. We have the SOS information buttons, as well as all of your lighting controls up here, which are a little bit of a LED upgrade from Subaru. We also can turn off a couple of your safety systems, such as the lane departure and front collision. And we have a nice full panoramic sunroof, so take a look at it with the shade up. Then we can open it up all the way like so. The shade is actually pretty fast too, so it opens up pretty quick. Lots of panoramic sunroofs open kind of slowly. Then we also have a separate button here to tilt and slide the sunroof, so pretty neat. Take a look up here. We have our visors and some lights up there. You can also extend the visors, and they also slide. It's pretty neat. And we can't forget about our grab handles. So that pretty much does it for the features of the Subaru Ascent. Very nice vehicle, very loaded up with features. And let's see what it's like to drive this vehicle. All right. So now that I have the GoPro secured to my head, let's take the 2022 Ascent for a little test drive. So throughout this test drive, we're going to take it around to a sort of dead end first, and we'll see what the turning circle is like. And then we'll get it out onto sort of a more main state highway road, 2-lane road. We'll get it up to hopefully 45, 50 miles an hour, and we'll see what it's like to drive at those speeds. And finally, we'll get it out onto a back road. We'll get a quick acceleration clip, and we'll see how fast, the CVT reacts with the turbocharged flat 4. And then we'll get it out onto sort of, finally a, sort of twisty, turny road. It's also pretty bumpy on that road too, so we'll get to test out the suspension and handling and things like that while we're out there. Okay, so bringing it around to our little turning circle test. Actually turns pretty tight for a pretty large SUV like this. That's pretty impressive. Now, throughout our drive, I'm going to leave it on the little instantaneous fuel economy screen there so you can see what we're getting instantaneously, of course. We have a little bit of traffic here. Gotta brake in the traffic. Now, first thing you notice is, not a lot of cars of this class have a CVT transmission. But coming with a CVT transmission, comes smoothness. So you really don't feel the transmission doing anything. It's not jerky, lurchy, anything like that, like a traditional, torque converted or dual clutch transmission would be. So that is definitely eliminated with the CVT transmission. So now that we're up at 45 to 50 miles an hour here. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough going on. It's pretty smooth and also pretty quiet. You do get some tire noise, there's a little bit of engine noise that comes in, but for the most part, it's a pretty quiet driving experience. The steering is very light, so it's easy to, move around. But yeah, and just a little bit of tire noise, a little bit of engine noise, but everything seems pretty refined so far. Alright, so at this point we will take a right onto this back road here, and going up the hill here, I'm going to get it up to about 25 miles an hour, and I'll mash the throttle and see how it reacts, and we'll hopefully get it up to 60. So here's 25. So actually fairly quick. There was a little bit of a hesitation from when I put the throttle down, but as you can see, the RPMs jumped up and the turbo kicked in, and we were away. And to 60 was a pretty brisk sprint. As you can see, it's actually holding the revs for me in case I wanted to do any more sporty driving, which is pretty cool there. And this road does get pretty rough, and I'll kind of let you know when the roughest part of the road is, and we'll see how the suspension soaks up the bumps. So just keep in mind, we do have the 20-inch wheels, so pretty large wheels for a Subaru. But with those large wheels, you still have a pretty decent sidewall on the tires, so which means you should have a pretty comfortable ride. And so far, it is a pretty muted sort of comfort suspension. It seems to be so far. Yeah, not a whole lot of tire noise going on over the bumps, which is nice. And it feels like a pretty, a decently solid ride. With the CVT, it does kind of wind out a little bit, and then it sort of calms itself down. So it's not a bad CVT. Subaru has had the CVT for quite some time, and they've had that time to really make it pretty good. And yeah, for everyday driving, CVT is not a bad choice. Alright, so this is kind of the most bumpiest section of the road. We'll see how the suspension handles it. can see the lane departure warning is beeping at me, and that does a pretty good job of keeping me in the lanes. And yeah, over the bumps it's pretty good. You know, not the smoothest, not the harshest. It's pretty average. It's pretty good suspension. Does a good job of soaking up the bumps. It is a little bit noisy over the bumps, but yeah, no complaints here. Turn on the camera mirror there. Now, I haven't driven too many cars with the camera mirror. It definitely takes a quick second to adjust, to kind of you know, adjust your focus to your, you know, on your eyes, because you're used to looking at a mirror, and here you're looking at a screen. You know, it's a little bit of an adjustment, but it's definitely a pretty good solution to kind of eliminate all of the, you know, headrests and seats and everything back there that you're seeing with a traditional mirror. And you know, it's a pretty quiet ride when you're not going over so many bumps. I have to say that. And the tires do a good job of kind of soaking up any of the road noise that isn't going over the bumps. The seats are also pretty comfortable, although I have to note that for myself, I like to sit sort of lower down in the vehicle, no matter kind of what vehicle I'm driving. You know, I like to sit kind of low, and these seats, you really can't do that. You know, it just doesn't allow you to get low down in the seats here, which is my one complaint, and therefore for me myself, I can't really get the most comfortable in these seats as, you know, somebody else might. Alright, so just kind of rolling back into our filming studio here. One of my wrap-up thoughts on the 2022 Subaru Ascent. Well, I'm kind of glad that I finally got to check one of these things out, because they've been kind of really hard to get a hold of. You know, whenever they hit the dealer's lots, they're just gone immediately. So I'm really glad to see that we got one traded in at our own dealer here, so that I got a chance to show you guys, you know, what this vehicle is like. Wrap-up thoughts are that it's a really nice vehicle. You know, this car stickers for $48,000, and you do get quite a bit for that money if you really think about it. You know, 48 grand gets you a lot in this car. You know, you get some really premium features too, like this leather, and sort of just the overall layout of the interior. It's just kind of pretty, it's kind of intuitive. You know, the climate control is very simple. You have plenty of features, you know, the wireless charging pad and the heated and cooled seats, and it's just a really nice car. You know, with that one complaint for my specific self with the seats aside, you know, it's just a really great vehicle. Nice to haul your family around for family trips on the weekends, and also a nice car for a daily commuter too. It's got plenty of power, and as you saw before with the average fuel economy, with the 5,000 miles this vehicle has, it's got an average of 24 miles to the gallon, so that's really, really good. But I hope you have enjoyed the 2022 Subaru Ascent Touring as much as I have, and I hope you stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos to come just like this one.